America, and welcome to Happy Hour with Maestro Tim. I am said Maestro Tim. Ed, take a walk with me to the other camera, if you please. You know, this is my favorite time of year. Reminds me of my home country, Canada, in July. And it reminds me of, for you ornithologists out there, Canada's national bird that, through its namesake, is called the kiki bird because its mating call is kiki, Christ, it's cold. So, trying to stay warm with me are members of Orchestra Iowa's string section. Please welcome violinist Jerry Henry, Rachel Peters, Eric Bate, and violist Jenwei Yu. Thank you so much for being part of this. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So, count off. We'll start with you, Rachel. Where are you calling in from, and what is your drink of choice today?
I am calling in from Chicago, Illinois, and my drink of choice today is a bourbon sidecar.
Ooh, which is what, other than bourbon?
So you have 3 ounces of bourbon, 1.5 ounces of triple sec, and an ounce of lemon juice. Simple but sweet.
Excellent. Mine's sort of similar. So, Eric, what about you?
Well, I'm calling in from the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago. Looks like we got some audio troubles over there.
That's right.
Calling in from the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago in the south of Chicago. Got a drink of choice here, which is it's called a caipirinha, which you and I both know well from our time down in Brazil.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, so caipirinha, it's limes, sugar. You muddle those up. You add in some this Brazilian alcohol called cachaça. And then you add in some ice and mix it all up.
No shortage of ice these days. I bet you you got it on sale, no doubt. Jerry, what about you? What have you brought to the party?
Well, I am from LeClaire, out on the east coast of Iowa, and today I'm teetotaling until later when I will have a dragon's milk, which is a wonderful bourbon barreled beer. That's going to come with dinner.
Outstanding. And who's making dinner?
At least one making and one during and one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about 10%, so it does well.
Yeah, just don't cook and drive, okay? It's Jenwei, where are you calling in from?
Well, I'm here in Bendorf, Iowa, which is not too far from Jerry, I believe. And I am having local brew.
That's right. You are bragging that you're drinking locally, and so am I, because what I'm drinking is a hot toddy, and it's similar to Rachel's drink in that it's equal parts whiskey or rum. In this case, I got a Canadian whiskey going on. Equal parts that and some honey or maple syrup. In that case, I've used maple syrup. A couple splashes of lemon juice, some cinnamon, some cloves, and top it off with hot water. And on a day like today. So cheers to you all. Thank you all for saying yes and joining me here. So let's have a virtual clink of the glass there.
Cheers.
So would you believe it's been a year since our last concert? That's staggering. And when I saw each of you log on, I am surprisingly emotional to see you because I haven't had a chance to really say hello. Certainly not face to face.
Long time.
And it's you can only catch up so much. So let's do a little bit of that right now. Jenwei, what's your year been looking like? You're kind of sequestered in your own apartment. What have you been doing this year? And
actually,
like the rest of us, yeah.
Actually, speaking of not catching up recently, thank you for your birthday note.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good God, that was in December, wasn't it?
It feels like years ago, too.
See, it's been a while since we've been able to catch up. Yeah.
Other than that, nothing much.
Yeah.
I was talking to Eric just before we go on. I think last normal thing, any sense of normalcy, was St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a concert set over out in Des Moines, and it got halfway through, and they called it off.
Yeah.
And that was that weekend.
Yeah.
So, and after all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're in very good company for sure. So, but Eric, You probably had the best idea of all of what to do with your spare time. Share with us the great news you have.
Well, my wife and I are expecting our first kid.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So she's going to be due June 10th, 2021. I mean, fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong. Unfortunately, this is actually our second pregnancy. The first one did go wrong. We suffered a miscarriage earlier in the pandemic, and that was really tough. But this one's going along quite well. And yeah, we've got a name picked out. She's kicking. My wife has the baby bump. And, you know, sometimes I bring out my violin and play the early Suzuki stuff, because it's amazing to read in some of these books how early babies start to be able to hear and understand what's going on around them. So, yeah, I read her fairy tales and play violin for her, and yeah, it's equal parts magical and also terrifying that, you know, pretty soon I'm going to have a screaming little girl on my hands.
Right.
For the first time ever.
Do you find that it's made the stress of this year harder, or has it deflected, or just different?
Different for sure. I'd say with the pandemic for me, the biggest challenge as far as let's call it mental health goes has been that all of a sudden the rug was pulled out from underneath me, and I no longer had stuff to work towards. So there's been kind of a drift, a purposelessness, and this definitely gives me plenty to be reading and researching about and doing about. So, you know, in that way, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rachel, you're also in the Chicago area. What has been going on in your life?
I suppose the main thing that has taken over my life, so to speak, is teaching 40 children private music lessons through Zoom every week.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, lots of kids, more interest in sometimes in their toys than their music lessons, but that's okay. That's okay. As long as they have something that is regularly motivating them, that's the most important thing to me. And then just also accessibility to the arts. I feel very fortunate that I'm in a position where I'm still involved with the arts on a very regular basis. And aside from that, I have dived into more of my passions, like playing video games, believe it or not, and hanging out with my dog.
Wonderful.
It's been wonderful.
Well, you're at an interesting nexus because the performance world has just been completely shut down, but you're also teaching. And I was just watching the news today, and of course, whether you're teaching in elementary school, high school, or privately, I mean, there's all this uncertainty of when do you go back into in-class teaching. So how has that been for you to juggle both those worlds?
That's an interesting question. I suppose my primary focus has been more toward just making sure that my students have consistency in their weekly schedules. Most of them have experienced throughout the school year being one of 20 kids in a Zoom classroom. And so therefore they don't get a lot of one-on-one attention, mentorship. So I've been more seeing it as an opportunity to mentor my students more personally one-on-one, even if that doesn't necessarily mean that they learn a concerto by next week, you know, just because the stress of the pandemic has treated everyone very differently. In the Chicago area, there have been a number of times where the Chicago Teachers Union and state officials have not been in agreement as to when to open schools back up. So there's been constant pushback throughout pretty much the entire school year, just from students wondering whether or not they're going back to school. So, I mean, I more or less am just trying to give them an environment where they can express themselves and try to learn something new on a weekly basis.
Jerry, a lot of people don't know that you built 2 of the largest and most successful string programs in this area. Are you really glad to be retired right now? What goes through your mind when in a year like this?
I am quite glad that I'm not having to deal with the classroom right now. So yeah, even though I miss the joy of watching kids get better, it's that's something very special, and
Sure.
and I do miss that a lot. So so what do I do instead? Well, I golf a lot.
So wait, but actually, before we get into golfing, though, have any of your colleagues who are still in the battle of these things, have they called you up saying, "Hey, what would you do?" Because it's sometimes having an armchair quarterback who's a little distant from the day to day can actually show a lot of perspective on a difficult year like this.
Yeah, I haven't really heard much from colleagues as far as what to do. I think each situation is so different, and they're just trying to figure out what can they do to keep the programs even moving at all. If not not even just maintaining is going to be tough with this. And so how do you motivate students, and how do you get that done? And like I said, I think each program is probably in its own little world trying to figure that out. Honestly, in teaching, most of the time, colleagues, in at least my experience in orchestra, is they don't talk a whole lot to somebody else. They're so busy with their own things that they, and they're kind of trapped in that. They just seldom go outside for people to give them ideas. So it's kind of the rare teachers that actually do that.
Conductors are guilty of that as well. So anyway, I rudely interrupt you as you're about to go on to your fantasy of golfing. So
yeah,
let me...
we have been living up in Northwest Iowa, in the Great Lakes region on West Okoboji for the last 4 years. So it just so happens that just kind of around the corner from our little house is a place that charges $100 membership. And then it's a 9-hole course, beautifully kept. And you can, if you're not taking a cart, which I never take a cart, it's $100 for the year.
Yep.
So then it pays to get out as often as you can. So I was going pretty much daily. And then while I wasn't doing that, I was working on finished my second book of my science fiction fantasy trilogy. So I'm 2 books down and started the third one.
Well, don't hold back. What is it?
Well, what is it? The 3-book is the trilogy. I haven't come up with the name for the trilogy specifically yet.
Oh, you mean you're writing it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
It's hard to tell exactly what it is. And actually, I've come up with a new name. It's going to be a Trilliad instead of a trilogy.
Excellent.
Which because the Iliad, is kind of an experience. Yeah. So anyway, so it's a Trilliad, and it is a science fiction fantasy set about 10,000 years in the future. And I have some fans already, people who I've let read it. So it's been a project for I haven't been on it for about 20 years. So got put to the side, right? And all of a sudden COVID shows up and it's more time.
So if you put it aside for a while and you've revisited, you go, "Oh my God, I was a genius," or "Oh my God, what an idiot! I would never write that."
I'm pretty happy with it overall.
Good for you.
So yeah, book 2 changed quite a bit from its original start to where it came to in this iteration. But I finished book 2, and book 3 is in the mind. It just hasn't gotten to the paper yet. So
perfect.
Curious. It's 1 year break. Has your writing style really changed over the years? Do you look back at your early writing style and be like, I got to rework everything now that my voice has changed? Or is it pretty much the same?
My initial writing style has changed drastically, but I got better, and so so it hasn't changed much since I put the book away. Honestly, the ideas remain pretty much similar, and the the style is pretty much similar as well. There may be a little more depth to the thought process, but that's partly because I got to start thinking about it again. So, yeah.
I'm going to go check our chat room to see who's online and see if they have any questions and who wants to say hello. And while I'm doing that, after I do that, I'm going to ask all of you, starting with Jenwei, about how your families are doing, because that's also linked into traveling. And well, Jerry, in your case, coming up with other worlds in terms of escapism. I'll be right back. I'm going to go check our chat room to see who's in there. Randy Reynolds, a Côte d'Iron, of course, wonderful. And Christine Bellamy says hello. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine. It's wonderful to have you here. Deborah Peters, 40 students. Wow, that's that's another thing I'd like to talk to you about. The juggling of the workload. Caitlin, I miss you here. And yes, Caitlin, I am embracing my Canadianness tonight with that. By the way, this sweater, which you're complimenting me on, my wife made that for me. So.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah. So if I see anybody, people who are like trashing the sweater, now you can feel bad. Let's see here. Deborah Peters says, Trilliad, love it. Andrea Allert, hi, miss you all as we miss you, Andrea. And Adam Evan Schwartz, evening, everyone. Dobry večer, good to see you. Okay, that's who's on so far that I can see. And Kathy Phelps, Kathy Varney, good to see you again. Blaine Cunningham, good choice, Eric, and we'll get into a little bit of Brazil with that. Darren Carr, Dragon's Milk, one of my favorites, Jerry. So, and Ann Lawrence says she loves OI. Yeah, okay. So, you're on the hot seat here, Jenwei.
Oh boy.
How's your family doing? Because you are sort of cut off from your homeland.
Actually, 3 ways.
Mm-hmm.
My folks are in Chicagoland area still.
Okay.
My sister has been in Taiwan, which I'll touch onto that a little bit. I've been trying to get careful because, as much as I don't have very much going on right now, I still do have quasi-citizenry. So I am still, I don't even go out to shop now. I get delivered and things. I hardly go out. And so I have been careful, but I think, my parents being a little higher risk.
Yep. How old are they?
And all that, I just figured we'll be in touch and see what happens. I think they wanted to go back, but then it was a little bit it was just becoming a little too risky when everything is happening. So they just hunker down.
Yeah. How old are they?
They just turned, they turned 70s for a couple of years now, 72, 73, 74. So they're definitely up there for the risk. And and crazy thing is Taiwan has done really well.
Yep.
It's not that nothing is affected. It's still affected. They're one of the first ones because close proximity to China, and they're one of the first ones to start noticing the virus and things, and they kick into gear. Government start getting their PPE stuff going. They're self-sufficient, and they have the whole works of contact tracing, lockdowns, and everything. It's not to say that everybody's all happy to fly. It's not like everyone is completely all agree, but it's been working out, and they're able to implement those. And cases have remained really low, like one of the lowest. Maybe after New Zealand, could be similar to New Zealand. I'm not sure what other country, Australia maybe, I'm not sure. So it's surreal because some of my friends in Taiwan, it just looks like their life is normal.
Right.
Chinese New Year's about now. They have, government is telling them to still be aware, social distance when you can't mask and all that, all this stuff. But it just looks like a totally different world. Concerts are kind of happening.
Yeah.
It is really strange. They have modelers going on. They had an opera. It's just, I'm here sitting here going like, what universe am I on right now? What's going on?
Yeah.
It's a little baffling, and I understand, it's a different country, has a different system. They don't all work, but man, it's so strange how stark difference it is,
Every culture certainly has their differences in discipline, and we're seeing that on the global stage. So this is a perfect segue, and I'm going to come to you first, Rachel, because I think one of the great luxuries that we lost this past year was traveling. Did you have any travel plans that had to be scuttled, or what happened?
Yeah, so I suppose I had two main travel plans that changed. One, the week after our concert, I was supposed to be playing with the Charleston Symphony Orchestra, and that concert was unfortunately canceled because of everything closing down at once. And then aside from that, I usually spend my summers in Arkansas playing violin at the opera in the Ozarks. And so those were my two main travel plans.
Sorry, is that Tom Cockrell's gig?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God! Sorry, a little bit of inside baseball, everybody. The problem is everybody in the music business knows everybody else. Tom Cockrell and I go way, 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 way back. Great conductor, funny guy too. Sorry, continue.
Very funny guy. Those were my main travel plans, and in result, I just was at home, which was fine. I love being at home.
Jerry, I am terribly, terribly sorry because you had to give up truly a trip of a lifetime.
Several trips of a lifetime. So my wife scheduled to retire a year ago. She scheduled herself to retire at the end of November. And then we were supposed to, shortly after that, head for Antarctica. And then we were supposed to come back for a couple days and then go on a world cruise for 6 months.
Face palm, yeah.
So my leave of absence is postponed, and hopefully we still get Antarctica. Looks like it's gone for a while. Hopefully next year we get to go on the around the world cruise. So
outstanding.
Yeah. Instead we turned that in for a 2-week RV trip just this last week with some friends. We formed our own pod and took off and went south and missed pretty much everything for the last 2 weeks, and we kind of threaded the needle the other day through ice storms. We went after the ice storm and before the ice storm in the south and got back up here. Of course, up here is no picnic at this point, but we had a great time. But that's the only traveling that we got in, and it sort of pales in comparison to 6 months at sea, but Yeah.
I'm assuming you either got your money back or at least a foot in the door for the next time out, or a voucher, I guess. I mean, how did that work?
Well, we had only made down payments on the a fairly minimal down payment on the Antarctic cruise, and that's a credit that we can use in the next 2 years for basically anything through the company that we went through. The around the world cruise, we had to decide. The big payment was coming up like last July, and so we decided it's not going to happen. So we kind of went a little early and saw if we could move the reservation for a year from now, and we got that done. So, good. But you had to be making that decision in July for that. So.
Mm-hmm. Uncertainty and how to deal with uncertainty, looking in your crystal ball of trying to figure out what's going to happen 6 months, let alone 2 months in advance, has been a real sort of, I think it's something that everybody's been struggling through. So Eric, your comrade, Blaine Cunningham, was already saying, caipirinha, cachaça. Tell us a little bit more about Brazil, because this past summer, Blaine was like moping around because it was a year since the three of us, I guess, went to Brazil.
Yeah, it was the three of us. We were down in Belo Horizonte, which is not spelled like horizonte, it's spelled like horizonte. But so this organization called Alabrev sent all three of us down to Belo Horizonte, and we had a great time down there. Really kind of expands your sphere of what parts of the world you care about when you hear news from there.
Right.
That's one of those things that travel changes about you. But Belo Horizonte is in this the state of Minas Gerais, which is like the food capital of Brazil, I'm understanding.
Excellent choice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Tim, did you pick the location?
No. So the benefactors who started this a la breve have friends in Belo. And so that was sort of the connection.
Yes, yeah. So we went down to Belo. We stayed with Laura and Celso, our hosts down there, and ate our way through Minas Gerais, through all sorts of buffets and all sorts of food. And there's this specific cocktail that is like their what would you call it? It's like it's the state cocktail. It's what they all have down there that doesn't exist so much outside of the area, which is caipirinha. So I went down there and on our way back, got a bottle of cachaça. It's not something that you can actually find here in the United States, but was able to manage to get one back with us. Today's actually the first time I've opened it. I don't really drink very often. My wife doesn't drink at all, especially not.
You better
now.
not.
Especially not now, but for the most part, not ever anyway. So yeah, that's my first. I had to like go on Google and make sure that I had all the proportions right to make a caipirinha. But I had all the ingredients here.
I find cachaça, so it's a sugarcane based alcohol, much like rum, but it doesn't taste like rum at all. It can taste anywhere from, it's got its own characteristics, but it can taste like lighter fluid with just a hint of gasoline.
Not this one that I got. It tastes pretty sweet. I don't know. I've had it sitting around for like a year and a half now, but and this wasn't a cachaça that you're really supposed to age. Like there's young cachaça and an old cachaça.
There you go.
The old cachaça, which has been aged, which has the edge taken off of it, you just sip that straight. But the young cachaça you use for making caipirinhas. But yeah, it was sweet. When I tried a little bit, I was like, it brought back some memories. Like, oh yeah, Brazil. This tastes familiar. It tastes like the night that we went out for faro dancing. You weren't there that night.
I wasn't. I was sick as a dog that night. Yeah. So I would have given a lot to like video you dancing.
No, you would have.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back online to see what's going on in the chat room, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to start talking music a bit.
Sure.
And see what's going on here. Nothing here yet that I can see. Pretty much everything I've seen. Oh, Jeanette Welsh is on. She says they have caipirinha all over Brazil, of course. Blaine is just like already weeping. He said that was such an amazing trip, and he's absolutely right. Let's see here.
Yes.
Yeah. Blaine said, I think Tim drank half of mine, and he would be correct, especially when he wasn't looking. John Schultz. Hey, John. God, I haven't spoke to you in a long time. John says, makes me so happy to see you all. And Blaine Cunningham was planning to be in Berlin this May. I guess that didn't work out too well. Randy Reynolds worked in Taipei for several years, loved the people. And I think that's all I see right now. Great. I'll come back.
Speaking of trips, remember when we did the Tuba conference? It was just the weekend before that. I rarely take any vacation. I mean, I'm myself, so it's kind of strange to travel. Well, yes and no, solo travel, but I just picked a location and took off, went somewhere not in the States, different states, but I went to Quebec City for a whole weekend.
Yeah.
No place that I know. I mean, I've been wanting to visit there, but that was basically the last travel I did for everything.
And that was right before the Tuba conference?
Right before that.
That's a long time ago. To anybody who wants to visit Canada, Quebec City and Montreal, I recommend very highly. You've got the best of both worlds, best of the new world and the old world. More people speak French exclusively in Quebec City, although when you're in Montreal, you'll find everybody is pretty much bilingual straight down the line. But the food is absolutely fantastic. You know, and the thing I love about
poutine.
Yeah.
Poutine.
Yeah. Especially when it's made with kiki bird, it's like mwah. And
oh no! What have you done?
But
look it up.
You know, the thing is, there's only 2 places in North America that if you walk down the street, I would say Manhattan and anywhere in Quebec, the province of Quebec, you walk down the middle of the street and you meet a stranger and they ask you what you do, and you'll say, I'm a musician. They'll say, oh my God, that is so wonderful. They venerate artists, whereas pretty much everywhere else in North America, they'll say, oh, that's nice. What do you do for a living, though? So really, those are the 2 areas that I know of in North America that you can go down and everybody gets it, because I'm talking to 4 people whose primary living is through performing, through playing. And that's why this year has been so difficult, because if you're not playing, you're not earning. And that has just been an absolute travesty. Where to go from this? I just wanted to talk a little bit about music, because something interesting came up offline before the cameras started. And that was, was it Jenwei or was it you, Eric, talking about playing in front of a camera? Yeah, there was, okay. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, how nervous you became.
Oh yeah, so I live stream on Orchestra Iowa Facebook page, and because that felt like a while ago too. That was early part of the whole shutdown, and I found it strangely nerve-wracking playing at home right here in front of my own screens with no audience. You know, thinking I'm going to be at home, just going to pull out my instrument is no big deal. You know, I know these pieces already I've prepared, and it sets in right in the middle of it. It is the strangest thing. It's not even like audition where you know you're putting yourself through the audition process, that you know that nerve that is going to be part of it. You know, the live performance, the whole nerve thing is you see that coming. I didn't see that coming for live stream. It was just like, whoa, okay, I'm playing for people. Yeah,
but while you're looking at four walls. Yeah. Well, Rachel, you played something for us as well. Was it live stream or was it pre-recorded?
It was pre-recorded.
Okay. Did you find the same thing? No, even though you're kind of playing in the safety of your own home, all of a sudden you get the jitters?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, because I played a Paganini Caprice, and
that's right.
At the time, though, I was doing a number of recording projects for the Civic Orchestra of Chicago, so I was still pretty accustomed to regularly playing at that point. So it didn't feel as nerve-wracking to me, especially because it was recorded. I had multiple chances to
get it right,
attempt to play it okay. That's very different from a live stream experience.
Sure. Well, Eric, tell us your story, because that was interesting.
Yeah, I actually didn't even tell the full story offline, but so years ago, there was this singer-songwriter that had me on his album for his title track, Blossom Is You by Paul Doffing. And he sent his album around to a bunch of morning shows, and one of them, this was back when I was living up in Minneapolis, one of them invited him onto the morning show. He said, Eric, come along with me and play for this morning show. It'll be great exposure and great fun. And so we went in, and the recording studio for a newsroom, at least this newsroom, it's the only one I've ever been in, was huge and empty. And so we were on there playing for nothing but a camera to this big old empty space. And it was the most nerve-wracking thing. Like, I've played for, live audiences of, 10, 12,000 people, but this was an audience of who knows how many, potentially 12,000 people, potentially more or less, I don't know. But when you can't see them and there's absolutely no audience response, for me, that was the most nerve-wracking performance. But as a funny aside, the there wasn't a cameraman behind the camera. It was like remote controlled by somebody who, it was like a toy car. Like they press a button and the camera kind of glides closer. Somehow they just like were misjudging that. And so as we were playing, that singer-songwriter, like playing his heart out with the song that he wrote, this camera keeps coming closer and closer. And you're wondering, is this thing going to crash into this you know, speaker over there? And sure enough, like, you know, boom. I don't know if that broke the tension for him or made it worse. I mean, it's awfully distracting, but yeah, that was a funny experience. If you found the video, you probably wouldn't recognize me. I had long hair back then.
Oh, well, I'm jealous. So I find this interesting. If you're getting nervous, even when nobody's around, I guess the observation or the question that I posed was, is getting nervous a learned response then? I mean, we as musicians, we put so much pressure on ourselves when we perform. And so even when you think you're in a, I don't know what the right word is, a safe place or an anonymous place, and you're playing, and yet you know that the record button has been, or the play button has been pushed, somehow it's still the adrenaline still comes back.
You know, there's one thing. Sorry about Eric. I feel like, you know, orchestra setting somehow it's a difference between a live performance playing for audience, and then if orchestra is making recording, somehow that makes a difference. You know what I mean? That just like sitting there ready for the whoever that is in control making the record button, and then that just makes it right away a different feeling. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Like you're just that much tighter or something.
Right. Well, everything, you know, everything's being recorded. It's for the record now. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes
sorry. Go ahead. No.
Oh, I was just going to say that I don't even know if it's necessarily that. Something that I've noticed being friends with a lot of brass players is just in general, as a string player, you tend to feel more comfortable playing in your section, right? Because you have all these other people around you that are playing the same part. And so you have this comfort level with saying, well, if I can at least play with that person, then I feel comfortable doing that, which is a very different environment from a woodwind or brass player in an orchestra that usually has one person on a part. Right. That is used to playing by themselves. So I feel like part of it has to do with that comfort level as well.
Sure. I'm a recovering trumpet player when I was in high school, and every time I had to play and I got nervous, my embouchure just turned to water. I mean, it was like, so how wind and brass players can actually function when they're nervous is beyond me. But I will confess that I get nervous. I get nervous for rehearsals. Because that's where the work gets done, and rarely do I get nervous for concerts, because if the work has been done, concert's going to go great, unless yours truly has overprogrammed something. So, but the funny thing is, I kind of wonder what that first rehearsal is going to be like. Hopefully in a couple months. Yes.
Wow.
So you four people know already that I will be crapping my pants.
You know, Tim, the only thing that has been going for me right now is Quad Cities. Mm-hmm. They have one concert a month so far.
Right.
7 subscription concerts. I'm out of one of them. But anyway, I think 2 of them were limited live audience, which is, I'll touch on that. But 2 of them were just, you know, live stream only.
Right. Yep.
Next one, however, in March, I don't know if anything will change. The planning is still to bring back limited live audience. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I will react when I see people. Yeah. They're like that sixth sense with the kid. The kid in the car going, I see, you know, people. Yeah. It's just, I don't know how I react, because I've been so just in this little bubble myself.
I think our viewing audience needs to know that it's not just going to be like turning on a switch when we come back. I mean, we're all going to be dealing with our insecurities and how do we do this again? Because playing music by yourself, definitely with others, is like a muscle. And it's going to take a while before we get back into the back into the swing of things. Eric, it looked like you were about to say something.
Me? Well, yeah, I had something on my mind. Is that as I was saying before, like one of the difficult things about pandemic was not having anything to work towards. Right. So I created something. In October, I found a pianist, and we in about four, maybe 5 weeks, we put together a recital and performed it for. It was like a Halloween recital, but it was a day late, so November 1st. And that was, November 1st, that was how many months since pandemic started? It was, quite a while of being away from the stage, and having an audience there and playing live classical music for them was surprisingly emotional.
Yeah.
It was surprising just how the absence of that for such a long time created such a desire for it, a thirst for it, that even though I wasn't playing perfectly, we only had a month to prepare, like the Devil's Trill Sonata and Graceful Ghost. It wasn't an easy program, and stuff didn't go perfectly, but it was still just an emotional experience. I'm a little afraid for what's going to happen once we get back to that first rehearsal and that first concert. Like, are we emotionally ready for it again?
Yeah, a great point. Yeah.
I suspect that Tim will, in his wisdom, program something with a crazy wild opening. and that's what we'll start with on the rehearsal, because I would imagine there's so much pent up energy to just be expended initially, just to, just
get it out of the way. Yeah.
Well, the joy of again, being back together, and the joy of making music, which let's face it, when you make music, you get a lot of endorphins and you feel great, and we're all missing that. So I suspect that at least the first portion of rehearsal, before we've all blown ourselves out and wiped ourselves away, I suspect it will be a very exciting and energetic time. So.
Oh, yeah. From your lips to God's ears. Listen, I'm going to go back to the chat room one last time. Then I'm going to come back and follow up on your pandemic projects that some of you have already mentioned that have helped you spend the pandemic. So let's see, anything new going on here? So this is interesting. When I see all the remarks that come in, they don't come in linearly. They kind of like come in out of various different, out of order. Let's see here. Anything new that I haven't seen yet? Not that I can see. Oh yeah, of course. Huh. Oh, Randy Reynolds says aguardiente in Colombia. Is that the national drink you were talking about? And Adam Evan Schwartz is drinking cachaça and churrasco.
Oh,
that's nice.
Whoa.
Churrasco being sort of a Brazilian barbecue. God bless meat. It is a vegan's absolute nightmare.
I'm vegan.
Oh, sorry.
Multi-vegetarian.
This Brazil and Taiwan talk is letting up the wanderlust again. Love and miss both countries so much. Absolutely. Kathy Varney is looking forward to hearing us all again later in the year. Let's see here. Andy Harris, our principal hornist, when you were talking about brass players, he's just saying, I'm just going to play loud. It's what brass players do. You were born to play loud, baby. And Andy Harris says, pent up Andy. So, yeah. Yeah. Danny Redmond suggests starting with fanfare for the common man. I don't think so.
That's tomorrow too.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, good God. Yeah. Something easy going. So, pandemic projects. Jerry, you've told us about your Trilliad. let's see. What are some of the other projects? Well, Eric talked to us about his recital. Rachel, Jenwei, this was the time where he said, if I ever have time, I should get around and do this. Not that all of us have done that, including me, but what were some of your pandemic projects to keep you focused through this year?
Rachel?
I tried learning Spanish.
Good for you.
I attempted through Duolingo. It kept up for about 2 months. I logged in every day, and then it kind of stopped.
It's okay. That's how pandemic projects usually happen. Yeah. Jenwei, what about you?
You see a whole lot of those back there?
Yeah. What are they? Games? Video games?
They are. So I am a failed aspired YouTuber. Let's put it that way. I have the thought of, I have these, and there are plenty of content creators out there. Speaking of nerves, get yourself to record yourself, put your materials out there, have an idea to do what you want to do.
Right.
I mean, it's been how many months now?
Right.
And I had that idea in my head. There are many content creators, not just the board gaming, but there are plenty board game content creators. And I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't put my foot through the door.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to send an audition. What's that, Eric?
I can relate. Yeah, creating content is hard.
Sure.
So one of my other projects was I created a video that I was thinking I could create the series of violin technique videos, help me get some students, and help my students that I do get have this baseline of knowledge. But yeah, creating content, like writing the script, filming, knowing stuff about lighting and video editing, I've been learning about it, but it's still hard. Content creation is hard.
There's a website called Skillshare. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. That has a whole lot of skills that people have been learning skills, different things that you can learn from it, and video editing to sound to content creation. Things like what do you want to do? Do you have many subjects? You need to narrow down to one thing that you want to do. That's one of the hardest things, is to really narrow down to that one subject matter. I like many different things about the hobby, and I like to still treat it as a hobby, and to make that into a thing is just too big of a hobby.
Sure.
To go over.
Well, I'm going to wrap things up here, so stay online because I want to say goodbye to you properly after the camera stops rolling. But one of the things that I see that's coming is, you've heard the cliche that it's feast or famine, and we certainly have been through famine this past year. And next season, there's going to be a ton of work for musicians out there all through North America, which is extraordinarily ironic, because now there's only going to be so many hours in a day. But anyway, better days are a-coming. And I got to say, I didn't realize how much I missed you until I saw you. I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing us with your booze recipes. And here, let's have one last final toast. To music, to friends, to Orchestra Iowa. Cheers. Clink.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
And to our listening audience, let's use this camera, shall we? Make sure you join us next week. My guest is going to be Executive Director, CEO of Hampshire Auditorium, Chuck Swanson. But also now, save the date for April 6th at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, where my guest will be on April 6th, the great pianist, Manny Axe. He's going to join me right here, and I kind of wonder what he's going to be drinking. So we'll see that then. So to Jerry, to Eric, Rachel, Jenwei, thank you so much. And to you, we'll sign off now. Thanks a lot.